Contour drawing. What is it? How do you use it? Contour drawing, as you probably saw from the description, contour drawing is taking your sense of sight and your sense of touch and kind of combining those into one. So contour drawing is about slow, steady, investigative drawing. You are exploring. It's an exploratory technique, okay? It's looking for that sense of touch through the sense of sight. So what I mean by that is my hand's already here. Let's use my hand as the first example. So if I'm doing a contour drawing of my hand, let me just tell you what the common mistakes are and what I'd like for you to focus on. Let's pick up the thread, if you will, from mark making. We're talking about how many different types of marks we can make, right, with a pencil and with other materials. We're going to look at contour drawing primarily through one or two materials, mostly pencils, or you could do it with pens or brush even. But I'm going to use the charcoal pencil. It's nice and dark. It shows up here very well. A contour drawing is not this. I'm just going to make it really dumb and obvious here. It is not drawing around the outside. That is not a contour drawing. That is an outline. Or it's a turkey, depending on how old you are. Who knows? Imagine you're an ant and just you've kind of teleported onto this object. In this case, the object is my hand. You've teleported onto some object. Boom, you're just right there in the middle of some object. And suddenly you have to find your way around. Now notice how I'm holding my pencil and notice how I'm turning it. What I'm doing is very gently going around the surface structure that I'm seeing. I'm not trying to get to the outside. I'm trying to more or less avoid the outside, although sometimes I might discuss the outside incidentally. I'm going up the edge of the second finger now, the ring finger. Here's that first knuckle. See how I'm holding my pencil? I'm not holding it like I'm writing in my diary. Dear diary, today was great. I'm not doing that. I'm holding it like an instrument because your pencils, your art supplies, they are your instruments. Also notice how slow I'm going. Now this passage was the fingernail, so I went a little bit in a more smooth kind of way over that because that material, what is that, keratin? The material that makes up our fingernail is smoother. I'm just kind of looping all around here. Now also the other thing is, when I'm doing this, I'm not looking at my paper instead of what I'm drawing. I am occasionally glancing at my paper, but more so what I'm doing, I'm on the middle finger now. More so what I'm doing is I'm just imagining how all of these different creases and folds, how they feel. And I also want you to consider, I know I have to talk right now because it's like a tutorial, but I also want you to consider how quiet it is. And I want you to pay attention to your breath. And any problems you had today, any stress, any drama in your life, I don't want you to think about any of that. I just want you to focus on this line and how this line moves around all of the topography on the form that you're drawing. Don't do this with headphones on and listening to music. This this is your meditation, your drawing meditation. And I'm thinking about maybe an area like this is a good area where I might want to really press down a little harder as I emerge out the other side. Because there's more of a pocket in this area, there's more of a pressure. Imagine if I was sculpting this, I would really have to, between these fingers, I'd really have to press down to carve out that clay. So there might be some areas where I do want there to be thicker, darker marks. Whereas the back of my hand, it's all very subtle changes. But look at those knuckles. Yikes. Lots of texture. Your hands always tell a story, right? Who you are, the life you've led. The point of this is there's a difference between an outline and a contour. They are night and day. There's nothing about a contour drawing that is like an outline. This is only achievable when you go very, 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 very slowly. Let me hold this up for a second so you can see some of that detail in there. Right? Those kind of lines are only lines that you can get when you look at things very slowly and carefully. Here are the common mistakes I see students doing. Drawing an outline, drawing way too fast, way, 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 way too fast, and looking at their paper too much. So when your pencil is moving, that is when your eyes are moving around the form. When your pencil stops, that's when you're looking at your paper. So you shouldn't be drawing while you're looking at your paper. You should be drawing while you're looking at your hand, and then you can, or whatever you're drawing, and then you can occasionally look back at your paper. All good drawing techniques share one thing in common. And what they share in common is that they feed the left hemisphere information it can't use. They feed it a task it can't use. So this is an oversimplification, but there are two halves of your brain, and it's as if you are two people in one. I'll post some links below to split brain patients and things like that that shed some light on some of these drawing techniques, I think. But you are two people in one. The left hemisphere is typically dominant throughout our day. The right hemisphere is the part of you that's good at making art. Everyone can make art. Everyone can be good at making art. No one is born an artist. Some people might have more of a natural interest in making art, but no one is born with any special skills that make them an artist. The left hemisphere is the thing that we need to switch off and let the right hemisphere take over. There's no sense of time on the right hemisphere. So I'll tell you, if you're doing a contour drawing, blind contour, semi-blind contour, and you keep thinking, oh my God, how long have I been doing this? This is taking an eternity. What's happening is your left hemisphere is still in control. You got to get it out of there, because on the right hemisphere, there is no sense of time. So the right hemisphere is when you're in that flow state, and all of a sudden you look at your watch and it's been an hour, 2 hours. Or time is very malleable and you can't tell, has it been 2 hours? Has it been 15 minutes? I have no way to know. And that's because you're really operating on that right hemisphere. So we feed the left hemisphere a task it doesn't like. In contour drawing, the task is draw a line that is not an outline that describes all of the surface structure inside of an object, and only incidentally, occasionally outside, but mostly inside. The right hemisphere is great at that. The left hemisphere hates it because the left hemisphere most likely does not have any previously stored information about those areas. So it's like a blank slate. It doesn't know what to do. But the right hemisphere gets to work and it starts investigating. So contour drawing is about letting that right hemisphere investigate what it can investigate very well, what it's very well equipped to do. And the left hemisphere has to just kind of shut up and get out of there. So yeah, don't draw too fast. Don't draw an outline, and don't draw while you're looking at your paper. Keep the drawing connected to your eye, and keep your marks connected to how light or how dark they are in relationship to the kind of topography, how something feels. I'm going to do one more example. I have a terrifying mask right here. Oh my God, this is scary. So this is like a vintage Halloween mask. Why I'm using this, other than to terrify you, is it has a lot of painted, decorative elements on it. What do you do with that with a contour drawing? Because there's no, if I was to touch this and my eyes were closed, I wouldn't feel blue paint edges. I wouldn't feel red paint edges, blue paint edges. I wouldn't feel any of that. What I would feel are all of these creases and textures. I would feel where it's higher, where it's lower, where it cuts off, where it slopes down gently. I would be able to feel all that. And my contour drawing should not have outlines around any of those parts. Your contour drawing is the map of the terrain. And I'm pointing this out because sometimes I've seen students do a contour drawing and it's of something that has like a printed, maybe it's imagine a package of potato chips or something like that. And they're doing they want to do a contour drawing of the, the folds in the potato chip package, the creases and whatnot, but they also are drawing the logo and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about any of that. Up and around the cheek, over, let's just say I'm an ant on a mission here and I'm trying to get over to the other side. This is a little more like cross contour drawing that we'll talk about soon. So here's a passage going all the way through this area. I didn't really hit any of those colored areas, I guess, but I could have. Let's jump up to the hair. Same thing. I'm moving over those areas, and who cares that there's blue paint there? The point is, I'm not drawing, a mouth and blue eyeliner and that kind of thing. I'm drawing the topography in the same way that I drew my hand. So contour drawing requires this kind of slow, meditative focus. The news headlines are terrible, do a contour drawing, right? Just slow things down. Come back to that human scale, right? You seeing and processing the world at a human rate and experiencing things slowly and delicately and experiencing a kind of meditative state. It's very soothing. Some styles of drawing, like gesture, are the exact opposite. They're fast, they're loud, they're intense. Meditation and contour drawing are very aligned with each other. If you're someone who meditates, you'll probably find this very easy. If you're someone who doesn't meditate, you might find this very taxing. And as they say about people who are busy, that if you're too busy to meditate for an hour, then you should probably meditate for 2 hours, right? So this is something that you can really invest time in and really settle into. And it's not about making a drawing that looks exactly like the thing. It's about making a drawing that takes all of your mark making experience and channels it in a very specific way to create a line drawing that is a record and a translation of the physical world around you and your empathetic connection to what that world feels like. Good luck.